Thank you so much. So may I start?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today and giving me a good opportunity to share my humble ideas about the text titled Nishitani Sensei's text titled Zen no Tachiba, the Standpoint of Zen. And so I'm very happy to be here. And before entering my presentation, let me excuse for my insufficient preparation for the text. This is that is to say, because of lack of time, I couldn't prepare for the presentation text of today. So my text is, as you will see very easily, is very, very short. And so I believe that my talk will be finished within 5 minutes. Yes. So I do hope that we will have plenty of time to discuss and to share, to exchange our ideas about this text. So in this sense, I hope you will enjoy my presentation, but not my presentation itself, but the discussion time after that. And let me begin my presentation titled Critical Comments on Nishitani's View of the Consciousness-Only School, Yuishikiha in Standpoint of Zen.
シェアやりましょうか。
はい。
ここから。
So I would like to share my screen with you.
Okay, first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then
Probably you have to make bigger.
yes, I can enlarge. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh no.
What is this?
Okay.
Let's see. ゾームはどこですか？
あれ？
ズーム。あ、いいじゃん。あ、これ。これですね。そして、いや、これは決めます。これ、
Enlarge.
まず、
Yes.
そして、share。
Share. Yes. And
はい、これです。
yes. ありがとう。
We should hear it.
Oh, okay. On the screen. So I hope you can read my text directly. Critical comments on Nishitani's view of the consciousness-only school in Standpoint of Zen. Introduction. The objective of Nishitani's book, titled Standpoint of Zen, is easy to understand. As is clearly shown in the preface that Akitomi Sensei referred to in his presentation. The book aims at elucidating, quote, what in reality the original standpoint unique to the so-called Zen Buddhism is, unquote. Nevertheless, at least to me, it is extremely difficult to retrace Nishitani's thought process toward this purpose and thereby deal with the book. Why? Naturally, one reason for this difficulty would be that, quote, a characteristic of the standpoint of Zen consists in the statement, no dependence on words or letters, and a special transmission outside the teachings, Japanese, 古流文字、教芸別伝, unquote. However, as we know, Nishitani maintains that despite this trait, despite this feature, Zen Buddhism has been very abundant in writings and sayings, which suggestively instruct that its doctrine is essentially ineffable. Furthermore, he argues that the Zen Buddhist texts have owed a great deal to other schools of Mahayana Buddhism, such as the Vinyapti Maturata, or Contextualizing school, the Tiantai school, in Japanese Tendai, the Huayan school, in Japanese Kegon, etc., primitive Buddhism, Genshi Bukkyo, Theravada, Chojo Bukkyo, and even non-Buddhist teachings, such as Confucianism and Taoism. Finding, quote, in all these, a clue to the investigation of self and an occasion to take off from there, unquote. According to Nishitani's strategy, owing to these verbal materials rich in outside influences of various sorts, Zen Buddhism can be approached philosophically, although he characterizes it as pre-philosophical 哲学以前 and post-philosophical 哲学以後, refraining from labeling it as philosophical. Let us accept this strategy, Nishitani's strategy. Despite, or rather because of this acceptance, however, there seems to arise another notable reason why we have a problem dealing with standpoint of Zen. Namely, we are uncertain of how to estimate seemingly strange or even distorted, in my eyes, characterizations of non-Zen Buddhist sort that Nishitani incorporates into his interpretations of unique characters of the standpoint of Zen Buddhism. Suppose that such strangeness or distortion is Nishitani's fault. Do we take appropriate measures in this case if we treat that characterizations and these interpretations separately as though both of them are originally interwoven and one? Suppose that the strangeness of distortion or distortion can be traced back to Zen Buddhism's appropriation of the thought. So not to Nishitani, but to Zen Buddhism itself. Then, is it then right for us to disregard Nishitani's uncritical and permissive, too much permissive attitude toward the Zen Buddhist inappropriate reception, given that Nishitani regards his own attitude not as ideology and partial to Zen, but as philosophical? My humble and very short presentation cannot solve this hard problem. Instead, focusing on Nishitani's treatment of the consciousness-only school, I would like to show that the first chapter of Standpoint of Zen, namely the text that we are discussing, is a typical example of the very problem. Section 1, the key features of Zen Buddhism. Sorry. Does this work? Okay. What characterizes Zen Buddhism? If I'm not mistaken, we can extract at least 3 key features of its unique standpoint from the first chapter of the book. First, investigation of self, kodikume. This first feature was discussed by Maraldo sensei today morning. And second, directly pointing to man's mind, think into one's own true nature and becoming Buddha. In Japanese, jikishi ninshin kenshojo. And third, and finally, existentialization, in Japanese, jitsuzonka. Let me explain each of these in turn. First, investigation of self, kodikume. Nishitani contrasts this with our egoistic or self-centered mode of being or discriminating mind, funbetsushin in Japanese, namely the mind, which in terms of Vidyapti Matrata or consciousness-only theory divides consciousness, Vidyunyana, and a surrounding world of objects, Visaya, and unquote, and which, quote, which grasps itself as if it were isolated from the world, unquote. However, Nishitani thinks that the consciousness-only theory denies such self-isolation or attachment to self based on the dimension of the for itself, Fürbitte in German, by pointing out, quote, the inauthenticity of this discriminating mind. Correspondingly, in Nishitani's view, Zen Buddhism's central idea of the investigation of self teaches us, quote, the self in itself prior to any self which is for itself, unquote. It is the self, quote, the self in which the self that sees and the self that is seen are completely one, unquote. I move to the second point, the second feature, directly pointing to man's mind, seeing into one's own true nature and becoming Buddha. Nishitani maintains that Buddhism in general has considered the mind to, quote, have a universal mode of being on the world plane, or unquote, rather than placing it as the unity of cognitive faculties within oneself. Such a cosmocentric view of mind has provided us with the idea that the minds which exist within our individual living things or human beings are individualization of the great mind extending throughout the world, and that even the self-consciousness and self-centered mind of humans is no more than, quote, one particular self-determination of the mode of being of universal mind, unquote. Nishitani illustrates this idea with the so-called eighth consciousness, namely the alaya or store consciousness, and the sense of the consciousness-only school, interpreting this alaya consciousness as what the root cause of the root cause of all activity and ceaseless change in the minds and bodies of all living things, unquote, including the above mentioned discriminating and discriminating mind unique to humans. That being so, it follows that, quote, in order to free oneself from the discriminating mind and negate its falsity, one must break through the eighth consciousness, namely the alaya consciousness, unquote. As Nishitani puts it, quote, when this discriminating mind is dropped, our own self-nature, Jisho, manifests the character of Buddha nature beyond the eighth alaya consciousness, unquote. Nishitani calls this extraordinary experience the great death, Daishi in Japanese, in the sense of Zen Buddhism, and compares this Daishi, great death, to the idea of consciousness-only theory that, quote, in extinguishing Vijnana or consciousness, the Visaya or world of objects over against it is finally extinguished, unquote. Then let me move to the final feature of the standpoint of Zen, existentialization. Nishitani finds the above stated view of mind provided by the consciousness-only school, quote, epistemological, ontological, and cosmological, unquote, and unrelated to our individual subjectivity. According to Nishitani, it is characteristic of Zen Buddhism to reconsider, or if I may say so, unthink this view from the standpoint of existence. Quoting the 10th century Chinese Zen Buddhist priest, Fa Yen, in Japanese Hogen's verse, Nishitani aims at illustrating how the consciousness-only theory was assimilated into Zen Buddhism, and thereby, quote, given existential import, unquote. As we have seen, all three traits of the standpoint of Zen Buddhism by Nishitani Sensei are deeply connected with his view of the consciousness-only school. That being so, whether this view on the consciousness-only school is appropriate decides the validity of the traits of the standpoint of Zen. This is my idea. Let us look closely into the treatment of the consciousness-only school included in the features, in these three features. And move to the second section, comments on Nishitani's view of the consciousness-only school. In the first, in the explanation about the first trait of the standpoint of Zen, we can read Nishitani's idea that the consciousness-only theory ascribes to the discriminating mind the separation of consciousness, Vijnana, from its surrounding world of objects, Visaya. However, according to my understanding, this separation is rather based on the ontological difference between them, so between consciousness and the surrounding world of objects. Consciousness is that which knows, whereas the world of objects corresponds to that which is known. So not that which is known, but that which is known. Furthermore, this ontological difference between consciousness and the world of objects decides which of the following modes of being is suitable or is acceptable. First, A, in Japanese, eta sho, or the mode of being in which something exists by relying on others, such as the menace or ego-centered consciousness or the alaya consciousness. Second, B, Fumbetsusho, or the mode of being in which something is objectified and distinguished from something else by consciousness. And C, Shinjitsusho, or the mode of being in which something is in accordance with its authentic self-nature, namely nothingness. Following the consciousness-only theory, the world of objects can be only in the mode of be, while consciousness can be in all these modes, so A, B, and C. Why? The reason why consciousness too can be in the mode of B is that consciousness consciousness itself can be the object of its own self-consciousness. The discriminating mind means the consciousness that is in the mode of A, etasho, and as Nishitani insists, remains inauthentic as long as it is rooted in the manas or alaya consciousness. Nevertheless, this one and the same consciousness can negate, delete S, can negate and escape from the mode of A and move to the mode of C, namely the mode of authenticity. Thus, the consciousness in the mode of A and the consciousness in the mode of C are not so much different as continuous. In this sense, unlike Nishitani, I personally believe that the consciousness-only theory teaches the inauthenticity and the potential authenticity of the discriminating mind. And if I'm not mistaken, some texts of this school can assist my interpretation. The second point, or the second, the explanation about the second feature of Zen showed that Nishitani considers the consciousness-only school to maintain that in extinguishing vijnana or consciousness, the visaya or world of objects over against it is finally extinguished. In my view, this is not the case. According to the consciousness-only theory, the world of objects is, in reality, nothingness, as long as it is nothing but an apparent phenomenon caused by the working of consciousness. However, because this visaya or world of objects is nothingness, the theory of this school emphasizes vijnana or consciousness also turns into nothingness. In short, the extinction of consciousness is caused by and linked to the extinction of the world of objects, but not vice versa. The explanation of the third and final character provides us with Nishitani's characterization of the consciousness-only theory as epistemological, ontological, and cosmological. However, this feature is, in my eyes, one-sided. Rather, the consciousness-only theory thinks highly of our non-objectifiable subjectivity, as is shown in the famous slogan, consciousness only, no world of objects, yuishiki musho in Japanese. This theory, as Buddhistic philosophy of subjectivity, has much more to do with the standpoint of existence than Nishitani assumed. Thank you so much for your attention.
Plenty of time for discussion and question. And we can also involve Professor Maraldo's presentation that we hadn't time to discuss.
Okay, this is a good idea.
And Abe Sensei, can you show your画面?
Stop. Okay. Let me give some time.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Good. So the first question is from Professor.
First,
Yes.
your paper is very rich.
I don't think so.
And I especially appreciate a critical attitude, which is essential, and Nishitani himself exhibited a critical attitude towards many things. So we follow in his footsteps by criticizing him.
Yes.
Okay. And then you present, if I remember correctly, 3 points or 3 areas of criticism. The
Yes.
first had to do with Koji Kyume, the
Yes.
second with Alaya
Yes.
Yana. You have so much there that I don't remember exactly. So I would like just to mention or raise a question about the second
Yes.
criticism concerning the Alaya Vijnana or the Yogacara.
Yes.
So there are, as I understand it, 2 kinds of criticism going on, not in your paper, but in general.
Mhm.
The first concerns what Buddhist scholars call the mistaken view of Alaya Vijnana and the so-called original Yogacara teachings.
Mhm.
Many scholars now say that consciousness only, yuishiki, is a mistaken understanding of the original Yogacara teachings. They shouldn't. It's not only consciousness,
Mhm.
which says that all else outside of consciousness is a product of consciousness. That's a mistaken view.
Mhm.
And this is presented most clearly, at least in English, in a book published last year by William Waldron
Mhm.
called Making Sense of Mind Only. And even in, I think Japanese scholars also recognize that this is a mistaken view.
Mhm.
I asked my friend Iwamoto Akemi, who works at the GT Suzuki Museum in
Yes.
Kanazawa. She's a Yogacara scholar, and she said, yes, this is, it's true that original Yogacara and Alaya Vijnana theory should not be called and does not teach only consciousness, yuishiki.
Mhm.
So that's one kind of criticism going on. The second kind of criticism is what you present, which is the logical coherence of the yuishiki theory. By the way, these other scholars say that the yuishiki theory is the received tradition, and it's the mistaken understanding. But be that as it may, the coherence of the received tradition is what you are speaking about and saying that Nishitani misunderstands that. So one thing that I noticed in Nishitani's essay was that he suggests how Zen was able to overcome a philosophical objection that he sees if one remains with the Yogacara theory. And that objection is that if consciousness is faulty, if it's fallible, if it can be mistaken, then the question arises, how do we come to know that consciousness is fallible, can be mistaken, if we only stay within consciousness? How does its fallibility come to light? And so, and not only that, but what is the remedy? What is the cure? Okay, so Nishitani then goes on to say, well, breaking out of or breaking through the eighth consciousness is how it comes to light, or how its fallibility is exhibited. This is still within, Nishitani's interpretation. And as you pointed out, he says that this breakthrough is what happens in Zen, not in Yogacara theory. And it's exhibited in Hakuin's statement, slice right through the eighth consciousness. And then by doing so, and you relate it also to the great death, by doing so, we get Hakuin's understanding that self-nature is no nature. Okay, this is a very perplexing kind of theory. And it basically says that what is achieved through Zen practice, what is achieved through Zen kind of thinking, is not conscious. It's not consciousness any longer. Or I think you even mentioned muishki or mushki, however it's termed, which, by the way, is Bodhidharma's legendary answer to the Emperor Wu. Who are you? Emperor Wu asked,
Yes.
and Bodhidharma says, mushki. So there's a long tradition of, there's a long tradition of that particular saying.
Yes.
So, but you then, so to summarize, Nishitani thinks Hakuin expressed the contribution of Zen, which goes beyond Alaya Vijnana thinking. And you say, no, he misunderstands Alaya Vijnana thinking, because in Alaya Vijnana thinking, if you negate consciousness, then you negate the Vijnana, the objects, the things in the world. What do we call them? I forget the Sanskrit term is. The Sanskrit term is Vishaya.
Visaya, Vijnana and Visaya.
Yeah. Visaya. Okay.
Am I correct?
Right. But in any case, the question then comes to, in your understanding, does Alaya Vijnana theory, in a sense, recognize its own limit and recognize that all levels of consciousness, including the eighth, are transcended, can be transcended? So this is what Nishitani says, yes, through cutting through the experience of cutting through. And you seem to think that we can't do that, or it's not necessary. So my question to you is, in your understanding, does Alaya Vijnana theory recognize its own limits?
Thank you so much. So let me pick up my PC where I have my own text. I need my book. Yes, well prepared. Thank you so much for your two questions about my ideas um, regarding the second point or the second feature of the standpoint of Zen, namely directly pointing to man's mind, blah, blah, blah. And let me begin by answering, replying answering to your to the first question, namely the question whether the characteristics or the slogan of the yoga Chara school, Yuishiki or only consciousness, is mistaken or not. So it is suitable for the feature of this school, this theory, the theory of this school. Of course, as you know, I'm not a specialist of Buddhism, and of course, I don't have a good knowledge about the theory of Yogacara school either, but as a scholar of Western philosophy, I'm greatly interested in Buddhism in general, in particular, the doctrines or the teachings of Yogacara school. And in this context, I like to read, and I have learned many things from Ueda Yoshibumi sensei's book. So I guess Professor Maraldo, you know him or you knew him personally, right?
Is that Shisuteru?
Yeah, Ueda Yoshibumi.
No,
He was a member of the editorial board of the journal Eastern Buddhist. And Ueda Sensei, Ueda Yoshibumi Sensei, not Shisuteru, was an expert in this field, so of the Yogacara school. And let me go back to the topic concerning the validity of the characterization of Yogacara school as Yuishiki. And as far as I have learned from Ueda Sensei, Ueda Yoshibumi Sensei, so I believe that this characterization of Yuishiki school as Yuishiki, so only consciousness, is appropriate. So it is not mistaken. It is not a mistaken characterization. Why? If I'm not mistaken, as I pointed out in my presentation, Yui Shiki School, Yogacara School, starts from the so-called ontological distinction between Vijnana and Visaya, so between consciousness and the surrounding world of objects. So in Japanese, Yui and Shiki. No. Shiki and Kyo. Shiki and Kyo. Shiki is consciousness. Kyo is the surrounding world. Yes. And according to this distinction, the latter, Kyo, or the surrounding world of objects, is produced or caused by the working of consciousness, or the working of the cognitive, so-called cognitive working of consciousness. In this sense, the world in itself is not substantial, because it is completely depend on the working of consciousness. And in this sense, this school insists that Kyo, or the external world of objects, is in itself nothingness. But in contrast with this idea about Visaya, Vijnana, or consciousness is in some sense existent, or a kind of being, in the sense that consciousness is existent as such by relying on deeper or more fundamental how should I say, more fundamental working of the consciousness itself, such as store consciousness, alayashiki, or Mayana consciousness. So how should I say in English? Self-centered, or self-consciousness, self-consciousness, consciousness, ego consciousness, consciousness. Thank you so much. Yes. Although Vijnana is completely dependent on these workings of consciousness at the deepest level, it is something which is existent. According to Ueda Sensei. Because of this ontological difference between Vijnana and Visana, this school answers to the question what there is by answering that Vijnana is existent, whereas Visaya, the world, is non-existence. And I believe that this is the background of the idea titled Only Consciousness, or Only Mind. And in this sense, I believe that this characterization is valid or appropriate. So this is my answer to your first question. And I move to the second question. Yes. So about the point that Nishitani Sensei insists that we can go beyond go beyond the standpoint of discriminating mind by cutting off ourselves, cutting off ourselves from, but by escaping ourselves from the store or a liar consciousness. But I say no. So who is right? This is my understanding of your second question. Is it right?
Yeah.
Thank you. And let me have a look at my text. I get the point of my idea. Okay, I'm well prepared for answering. My idea is that my idea is not against Nishitani Sensei's idea, but I would like to say that the way how we can salvage ourselves from the liar, the strong influences from alaya consciousness should be understood differently from the proposal by Nishitani Sensei. And this is the point of my answer. And if I correctly understand, Nishitani Sensei insists that if you want to escape or salvage yourself, you should eliminate or distinguish the discriminating mind on the side of consciousness, and then you move to the side of the world of objects, and in order to eliminate the world. The first is the first. So at first comes the extinction, the negation of consciousness, and then comes the denial of the world. But if I may, I would like to propose that the process should be reversed. So, namely, the first comes the negation of the kyo, so the world, and then comes the denial of city consciousness. The reason why I may put or present this proposal is that, as you might know or might know better than me, there is another slogan or motto of the Uishiki school, namely, may I use the blackboard? Yes. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, the last Chinese character is Liu. Is this correct? Do you know this program? Okay, okay. Thank you so much. This is correct. This is the world. And this signifies, this second one signifies, of course, consciousness. And then the third means together, both. And the last one means being eliminated or being or vanish or perish. So disappear. Of course, the motto means both the world and consciousness disappear or vanish together. So nothing remains anymore. That's okay. And as you easily see, the first character, Chinese character of this four letter sentence is kyo and not shiki. And this means that according to the idea of this group, kyo is the word should be first denied. And why can they say that the world should be denied at first or earlier than consciousness? And the answer they provide is that, as I said earlier, the world or kyo is in itself non-existent. So we should recognize that the world is not at all substantial, but just phenomenon. And if we realize this phenomenal character of the world, then the world is denied. This is the central idea about this point, as far as I understand. And then comes the second step of their idea. That is to say, if once the world is denied or negated in this sense, then consciousness or Kyo Vijnana loses its counterpart, namely the world. And then consciousness can no longer be consciousness of the world. So consciousness cannot be cannot serve as consciousness, and then consciousness is denied as consciousness, and as a result, both of them are denied or negated. Then nothing remains, and the state that nothing remains corresponds to the idea of nirvana in the context of this school.
Right.
This is my answer. Thanks so much.
But
John, do you want to start?
I'll try to be very short. So both you and Nishitani go with what's called the received view about Yuishiki. Okay. You differ from Nishitani and criticize his understanding of this so-called received view. But Nishitani goes on in the story about Fayan Hogen.
Ah, yes.
Right.
Right.
And so he quotes a verse ascribed to Hogan.
Yes.
And that verse is about it. When we read it, it sounds like it's about the keishki, the scenery, the things.
Ah, yes,
you know?
yes, right.
It's about
Yes.
and yet that verse is also about the self.
Yes,
it says.
yes, this is the point.
So
Yeah.
no difference between self and
Right,
Vishaya
Right.
or
right.
world. It's
right.
the affirmation of the unity of Ishki and Vishaya. Isn't it?
Ah, okay.
It's no longer a negation of consciousness and its objects, but it is an affirmation of kind of self-identified with world.
Mm. Mm.
That's how I read the Hogan verse.
Yes. I completely agree with your reading. Mm. Let me reply very, very briefly. Yes, you are right in the point that Hogan how should I say? Clearly affirms that both consciousness or self and the world are, so to speak, really existent. Mm. So they are not non-existent, right? And how can we understand the relationship between the affirmative attitude exemplified by Hogan and the negative attitude presented by that slogan? I personally believe that the key clue to this problem would be the third mode of being proposed by the theory of the mind consciousness only school, namely the mode of let me see. In Japanese, this is shinjitsusho. So the English translation of which would be just a moment, please.
Go.
Yes, yes. How yes, yes.
Of nature.
Yes, but I need my so to speak paraphrased translation. So not direct translation.
Being in accordance with self-nature.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm poor. Thank you so much. Yes, this is what I mean. If I am not mistaken, this self-nature, the self-nature in this context means nothingness or emptiness, because all teachings of Buddhism, no matter what school you belong, can be summarized as the teaching that nothingness or emptiness is essential to all beings. So all beings are, so whether non-human or human beings, are in reality nothingness. In this sense, the truth or the authenticity in the context of this feature, shinjitsusho, means nothingness. So that being so, that slogan, Kyoshiki Gumin, means we can realize what consciousness, both consciousness and the external world of objects in reality or really are, because both of them are nothingness. And
Yeah, but I think, I'm sorry to jump in, but I think there's a paradox. I mean, because of this authentic setting, but nothingness and emptiness, it alises, right? I mean, the self suddenly alises. So, I mean, without the notion of emptiness and nothingness, I mean, you won't really understand. I mean, I was reading the Heart Sutra while you guys are discussing, but I think all these Shokengu, Gounkai, Shiksoku, Zeku, Kusoku, Zeshiki, Juso, Gyoshiki, I mean, all these things are telling that, you have to go back to the idea of nothingness and emptiness to self-affirmatively understand that there's, it's a recursive thing, but it's nothingness, but you are understanding it's through nothingness, but then you yourself is also nothing. So, I mean, it alises, but then you are negating again and then again and again. Am I making sense to you? So it's like recursive, this recursive
dynamic.
Yeah.
And
but
So,
I'm sorry to say that I'm sorry to say that I have a little bit different opinion.
Please, don't,
So
sorry.
I don't, I wouldn't, so I don't want to say that, so nothingness is nothingness, and arising or affirmation is affirmation. So I don't want, I don't want to
didn't
say that.
I'm saying that it's a recursive reaction.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
because you also mentioned
but
about
in order to say there is a cyclic or cyclic relationship between them.
Yeah, because you mentioned about data show also.
In my eyes,
Yeah.
these two things are somewhat separable.
1時頃、
But I don't want to say
ま
that.
だ7分前。
But
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry. That was a conversation with my wife because of a lunch. Sorry.
But I would say that the state of nothingness, which consciousness and the world have reached or have realized after the denial of these thoughts. Things. They have, at the same time, they have attained or have gained the authentic mode of their being, according to the idea of discord. And that means they are, after that, they are the way, they are according to the way or in accordance with the way how the true the judicial the true nature or the self nature of them indicates. So they are in the state of so in the authentic mode, although they are denied. So this is of course a kind of paradox. So negation means affirmation, but I believe that Buddhistic ideas, no matter what kind of schools they are, more or less contains this kind of paradox. And so we cannot follow this idea philosophically.
Maraldo, you want to?
Yeah, can I? Yes. Well, I have two comments.
Yes, please. Thanks.
First of all, I must say that I appreciated very much your presentation.
Thank you.
It was very interesting, very appropriate. Now, the problem about the consciousness only
Yes.
theory
Yes.
and the existence or non-existence of the real world. When this theory says that the world is void, I think that it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Sorry, what's more?
When
Yes.
they say that the world,
Yes.
phenomena are void,
Yes, void. Yes.
cool,
Yes.
it doesn't mean that they are not existent.
They are not.
That
okay.
they are inexistent.
Okay. So void is.
Means that they have no individual self-existence, which is different, which is very different.
I got the point.
This is a very important point.
Yes, right.
Exist, but they are always changing and they have no independent, concrete self-existence. So you should start from that point.
Yes, right.
This is-
I completely agree with
Thank
you.
The other point,
Yes.
completely different, always about the consciousness only theory. The Yogacara theory is, as you said, and so on and so on. But another point of view
Yes.
is how the Chan Then tradition interpreted it.
Yes.
This is different because
Yes, you're right.
I will tell afterwards in my speech. In the Chan Then tradition, the Alaya Vijnana, and also in Mahayana and in Nagarjuna, it becomes Tathagata Garbha. It becomes Tathagata Garbha. It becomes Busho.
Yes.
So it's completely different.
Yes.
So the interpretation of then of Vijnana is completely different. So we can speak all the day about how the Yogacara theory is or is not, but we should start seeing from the Chanzen viewpoint,
Yes.
which may be very different,
Yes.
very different.
Yes. You're completely right. Also in the second point, yes.
Yes,
But
I will speak after.
yes, I look forward to your lecture, of course.
Because the Chan Zen master wrote a lot about this thing.
Yes.
Quite
Exactly.
I will show you.
Exactly.
And what he says that he quoted Hogan and Hakuin. So you should start from that point of view.
Yes. I
It's not
agree.
about it, it's interpretation
Yes.
of the theory.
Yes, I agree. But if I may add some words, I personally believe that Nishitani Sensei should have clearly distinguished the teaching of the Yogacara school from the Zen Buddhistic reception, a unique and fruitful, productive reception of that teaching.
Indeed, doesn't.
This is the point, what I would like to say in my presentation.
Yeah, this is a very important point.
Yes. And so in order to clarify the uniqueness of the Zen Buddhist teaching, so we should elucidate what differentiates Zen Buddhistic idea or Zen Buddhistic reception or appropriation of Yogacara school from the original teaching of the school.
Yeah.
But if I'm sorry to say that he didn't do that.
No, it didn't. Yeah, this is, a great limitation because he says the standpoint of Zen, but it doesn't speak about the standpoint of Zen. He speaks from the standpoint of original Buddhism. Stop.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So first of all, thanks for your speech. As usual, precise and easy to understand, but really sharp. My point is way easier than the ones you just debated. So frequently in your speech and also now in the conversation, there was this word, authentic or authenticity.
Yes, right. Yes.
But as someone studying existentialism, I ask myself, I know what authenticity means in Western existentialism.
And I myself do Heidegger.
Yeah, Heidegger is the first reference. Of course, I thought about Heidegger as well, but many others reflect about authenticity as well. And of course, the Kyoto School of Philosophy, not only Nishitani, but also the others,
Yes.
tried to dialogue with existentialist philosophy and also tried, to try to invent, I would say, Japanese words that would let this dialogue with Western philosophy. So I would like to know something more about this idea of authenticity in Eastern thought, also because at a certain point, while answering to Professor Maraldo, you said that authenticity could be like acting in accordance with what our true nature indicates. But we all know that nature indeed is a category that was invented to dialogue with Western philosophy because nature you don't really have a Japanese word for nature. And I have this problem in Nishida because I really think that in Nishida we can find what I'm calling now in my articles a natural tendency, but I am not sure that natural tendency is the word. So yeah, this is my linguistic problem. I would say I hate
I don't
problems also because I don't know Japanese. So, but still I have to make this question.
Thank you so much. Oh, the idea of authenticity. Do you expect me to answer to your question from the viewpoint of Buddhism or
I would say from the understanding
from a wider context?
Yeah, because in Nishida, existentialist categories like life, existence are still really confused sometimes because it's life, but existentialists would say existence. Sometimes it says biological life, distincted by life. I think in Nishitani already had a clearer point of view. Also because he comes after Nishida, so Nishida opened the path, and it's normal that Nishitani can be more precise. And Nishitani also knew more directly the German context, while Nishida just read about it, but of course it makes a difference. So yeah, I would say in Nishitani's understanding and in Kyoto School of Philosophy understanding rather than in general Buddhist tradition.
Thank you so much for your very interesting answer. Question. But I was wondering what Japanese notion or Japanese expression would correspond to the English translation, authenticity. There are many possibilities, of course. And if I may say, the most popular Japanese translation corresponding to the English word authenticity or the German word Eigentlichkeit is Honraisei. This word, Japanese word, Honraisei, is or has been used very, very frequently in many, for example, in many Japanese translations of Heidegger's Sein und Zeit, being and time. Honraisei is the standard translation in this context. But if as far as I know, or as far as I can remember, Nishida himself, for instance, Nishida himself didn't use this word, Honraisei. So I was wondering if the word authenticity is when the word authenticity appears in some English translations of Nishida's text. What Japanese word would correspond? So
Real self,
In Watsuji.
but I don't know the Japanese.
yes, you're right. Watsuji himself, Watsuji uses this word, honrai sei, intendedly. I say intendedly because Watsuji intentionally use the word honrai sei in his book, such as Rinrigaku, the big book about the main text, main book of Watsuji's ethical system. In this book, he intendedly used the word honrai sei, which would correspond to Heidegger's word Eigentlichkeit. But in relation to your proposal, the notion of authenticity in Western philosophy can correspond to some ideas that can be translated as authenticity in English. There are many different contexts. So we cannot decide we cannot decide this is the essential way how we should understand the Japanese idea of authenticity. For instance, if I may take Watsuji as an example, when Watsuji uses the notion of honrai sei corresponding to authenticity, Watsuji emphasizes that we human beings go back to the origin of our human or ningen existence by returning to what Watsuji calls in Japanese, 絶対的全体性, so absolute wholeness or absolute totality, which Watsuji links or connects with the notion of emptiness, ku. But I believe that this origin of ningen sonzai or human existence namely emptiness, cannot cannot be directly or exclusively connected to what we understand by the notion of nature. Because if I'm not mistaken, Watsuji very, very clearly distinguishes subjectivity and objectivity. Namely, what they want to distinct human beings as subjectivity from all other non-human, non-ningen beings, such as nature. If that being so, the origin of human beings, namely absolutely emptiness, zetaiku, or absolute emptiness or absolute wholeness, should be on the side of subjectivity, not on the side of objectivity, because this origin is the place, the original place from where we human beings, so to speak, appear. And this is an example of the usage of the word honraisei that shows us the word or the notion of honraisei can have nothing to do with nature. So there are many contexts, I believe.
But yeah, there is still this idea.
We can continue at this.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and we finish here the morning session.